Hi guys, right, okay, so we're back on the Fiesta. Now the goal is to turn up the boost pressure. Now I've been working through a list, and the next thing on the list is to sort out the gear selection. So what is wrong with the gear change? Well, basically I've had to make custom brackets on the gearbox. I've had to make some sleeves on the cables for underneath underneath the trim to hold the cables in. And what would happen is the third to fourth, like up and down the gates, they feel fine. They feel no problem at all. But across the gate, going from sort of if I want to go across to first or across to fifth, it's very stiff. And if I'm driving it normally, it's not a problem. You just drive it as you would do. But if I start to drive it a bit quickly, or go through the gears a bit quickly, you just lose confidence that you're going to select the right gear. Now, obviously, selecting the wrong gear is, well, it's game over. It costs you a lot of money. They don't call it a money shift for no reason. So, that is what I'm trying to look to solve. While I was on road test, after the coilovers and the suspension fixes, then what I experienced was actually a complete loss of gear selection. It just wouldn't want to select gear properly. And then when I did select gear, it wouldn't want to come out of gear. So the thing that I thought was a little bit of an issue has now just decided, yeah, that's enough. So it was a good thing it was on the list, and it's going to be the next thing I tackle in this video. Is I'm still experiencing a noise when taking right-hand corners quickly. Now that I thought was the drive shaft hitting the subframe. There was witness marks on the subframe. The clip has come off and the grease had spilled everywhere. So it was definitely contacting, but it turns out it wasn't the noise that I was actually experiencing on roundabouts. The noise now happens much more frequently. Now what I think has happened is the engine and gearbox has shifted over in the engine bay. And that I think is a problem with the driver's side engine mount. Now this engine mount down here is a replacement engine mount. That has always been a problem to fit. Even when I had the standard gearbox and it was supercharged, that was always very tight to fit. I would have to bolt it to the engine, lever bar it across to get the bolt holes to line up down here. Now, I recently took the wastegate spring and changed it. So I took the wastegate off. To do that job, I needed to take this mount off. When I put it back in, I didn't push the engine across with the bolt holes. And that is why I think I'm getting a noise still. Well, that's enough of me waffling on. Let's set you down and get this thing ripped apart. Okay, so got it partially stripped down. Does look like my breather box is leaking a little bit, so I'm going to have to address that. Nice little side project, love those. Now, I think the main problem is these are the two gear cables here. The cable takes a sharp angle back into the bulkhead. You can see that's really sharp around the corner. Now I think that tightness is causing the issue with the selector. What I'm actually going to do first is disconnect these cables and see what it feels like on the gear stick. Now it's a good job I actually did disconnect these, because this wasn't connected in the holder. So that would explain my loss of gears. However, the gear stick, with those disconnected, it's still stiff across the gate. So yes, I'm going to need to sort out under the bonnet, but I also need to sort out the mechanism up under here. But what I think the problem is where the connector is in here, you can hear the plastic bend when I go across the gate. So I don't actually think it's a tightness on this cable. It's more so that it can't move, the lever can't move because of this here. So yeah, with this disconnected, moved out the way, just moving across the gate, that is now so much freer and easier. So yeah, I'm just going to need to modify this in some way to allow it to turn nicely. Right, hopefully that's quite an easy fix. Now I've jinxed it. Okay, so I've identified several different things I need to fix to get this gear linkage sorted. Right, okay, so first thing then, let's crack on inside and get this gear lever moving nicely. My first thought with this gear lever was just to widen this groove to allow for more movement side to side. As you can see, there's not a lot of movement there. If I try to move it, it's not enough to allow the cable to move. Now, the only issue with that is whether then this will move too far forward and backwards in the housing when you're selecting gears, so it can create some free play. So what I've just got this tacked together, and with that in there, it will basically allow movement when it's on the gear stick. So if I clip that on, it will all move without it being fixed down. There you can see it will just pivot around the screw. So that's what I'm thinking. I just don't know whether or not it bending will apply the correct force down the cable. So I'm going to get this fitted in and see what that works like. So that doesn't work. It's mainly second gear. First, or going across to first is fine. If I go into second and then back out to second, you can see it just doesn't push on the right angles. So attempt number one, no good. Let's take this apart again and have another go. So this is attempt number two, just made up of a bit of a scrap angle that I had. I can't show you because it's not bolted down. So what I'm going to do is get it bolted in the car and I'll show you exactly how this works. So with this in and fitted, I can now move this side to side without any resistance down here. So that is good. Now it is still slightly tight with the other cable connected, I think because of the right angle under the bonnet as I shown earlier on. So just quickly before I clean it up, this is what I've done for the cable end to allow it to move. I've got this bracket and I've basically put a hole in the top and a hole in the bottom, which go through into the aluminium holder here, and that when it's bolted to the gear stick surround, it just allows it to pivot side to side. So yeah, that's basically what I've done. Right, I'm going to get that all cleaned up and painted, ready to go back on the car. So I think I'm going to take the easy way out on this one. Now I've adjusted the cable inside, it's much better than what it was before. So before I start altering the gearbox, I'm going to drive it like it is. I'll probably put like a heavy duty cable tie around the cable itself so it doesn't pop out again, and just see what it's like, because there's no point changing it if that's all it needed was the gear stick alteration. I'm just quickly doing this engine mount. Got it all stripped down so I can lever the engine this way if I need to, but I've basically taken out the bolts, and you might be able to see the bolt holes are right over towards this side, and in fact they're just starting to tuck underneath the original holes. Now that's always been an issue, even with the original other mounts with the gearbox. So I'm going to take this mount off, I'm going to elongate the holes out so it can sit comfortably, not under stress, because I think when it's bolted in it's just forcing the engine that way, causing the knocking. I hope that's what it is anyway. So I'm going to open these out, get it bolted in, get the whole car back together, and yeah, cross my fingers and take it out for a drive. Hopefully a quick fix, but we'll see. I'm going to pop the lid off, fill it with water, and see where the leak is coming from. And for those curious, that is how much I've got in this breather pot. That's after about a year of driving. And there she is. It only appears to be the one. Don't have anything else leaking out around the bottom there. And it's watertight. Lovely. So let's empty this out and get this thing fully rebuilt. Right, so we're out in the ST now and we're just having a little drive around, and so far so good. It all appears to be driving well. The gear change is much better now. It's nice and smooth between the gear changes, so I haven't got to think about it. You can just drive it on autopilot, so that's good. Now I'm just working my way out onto the country roads so I can test it with a little bit more vigor, shall we say, and we'll see how it goes. But so far so good. Just normal day-to-day round town driving, it's massive improvement over what it was. Now I haven't gone to the extreme around corners, but so far I've not had any noises or any rubbing or any kind of knocking or banging, so I'm pretty satisfied that that engine mount has sorted it all out. So yeah, I'm just going to enjoy it for a little bit now. It's on low boost, but I'll go into more about that on the next video. So if you want to see what happens, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.